The photo came in while I was sitting at my kitchen table with a claim file open, checking whether a dented bumper matched the driver's third version of the story. My sister Brooke's name lit up my phone, and I opened the message without thinking. Because a text from your sister should not end your marriage. Grant was in the picture, holding 2 newborn babies against his chest. His face soft in a way I had not seen since the first year we tried to become parents. Under the photo, Brooke had typed, "Daddy finally got to hold them both." For a few seconds, nothing in my body seemed to work except my eyes, because the proof was already inside the image. Grant was wearing the gray hoodie he had packed for the sales trip near Salem, and Brooke still had a hospital band around her wrist. A cream diaper bag sat beside the chair with the logo from the baby rental company where Brooke worked, the same place she claimed kept her too busy to date. Those details did not feel like clues yet, but they were too specific to be grief, too clean to be misunderstanding. My phone rang before I locked the screen, and Brooke's voice came through thin and panicked, saying my name like she wanted to pull it back. I did not ask whose babies they were, because women do not caption a photo with Daddy unless the lie has already been living somewhere. She rushed out, "You weren't supposed to find out this way." And that sentence told me there had always been another way planned. One where I was supposed to stand still and listen. I ended the call, saved the photo, opened my laptop, searched for a family law attorney in Portland, and by the time Grant texted that work would keep him away a few more days, I had already created a folder with his name on it, and stopped being the wife he thought still knew nothing. Aaron Price's office sat above a coffee shop in downtown Portland, plain enough that I did not feel like my pain had been dressed up for someone else's business. I brought the photo, the joint account statements, Grant's travel texts, and the small charges that looked harmless until they kept landing near Brooke's apartment. Aaron read everything without changing his expression, then slid one receipt closer with 2 fingers and said, "Oregon will not hand you the whole marriage because he hurt you. But if marital money paid for his other life, that belongs in the room." I understood the difference before he finished explaining it, because my job had trained me to separate damage from proof, even when the damage was mine. The hotel charges were not huge, but they were repeated, and 3 of them matched weeks when Grant had told me he was meeting buyers for commercial vans outside Salem. One pharmacy receipt sat 6 blocks from Brooke's place on the same afternoon. She had texted me that she was too buried in work to come over. Aaron tapped the dates, not the amounts, and said the pattern matters more than the drama. That was when the last few years began rearranging themselves in a way I could not stop. Brooke had sat beside me after one failed treatment and whispered that maybe motherhood came to women in different ways, while I was still bruised from trying to make my body cooperate. At the time, I thought she was being gentle, the kind of sister who knew not to say too much. Now, with her hospital band in that photo and Grant's hoodie in the same frame, the sentence sounded less like comfort and more like something she had already been preparing herself to believe. Aaron warned me not to touch Grant's private accounts, not to guess at passwords, not to send the photo around my family just to make the pain move faster. "Keep the file clean," he told me, because clean evidence survives longer than anger. I nodded, folded the statements back into the folder, and walked out with the first appointment set for filing. By the time I reached my car, Grant had texted that the Salem trip was running long, and I saved that message beside every receipt that already knew he was lying. Brooke started texting before Aaron had filed the first papers, not with a confession, but with the careful panic of someone trying to soften what she had done. She wrote that she never meant to hurt me, that Grant had been lonely, and that I had been too deep in grief for anyone to reach. I read every word without answering, because she was not apologizing for sleeping with my husband while I blamed my own body. She was trying to make my pain sound like weather, something sad that had moved through the room and left her no choice. Her next message sounded softer, which made it worse, because softness had always been Brooke's favorite way of hiding a blade. Grant wanted to be a father so badly she wrote, "and the babies deserve peace. And I hope someday you can separate them from how this started." I stared at that line because she had once sat beside me after a failed treatment, held my hand, and whispered that maybe motherhood came to women in different ways. Back then, I thought she was helping me survive a loss, but the hospital band in her photo made that memory feel rehearsed. Grant still had no idea I had seen anything, so he kept performing the life he thought I believed. He texted that the Salem contract was dragging on, that the buyer wanted one more inspection, and that he hated another hotel room when he could be home with me. I saved that message beside the receipt Aaron had marked, because the dates did not need my anger to make sense. The gray hoodie in Brooke's photo had said more than Grant's paragraph. I did not reply to either of them, and my silence seemed to make Brooke more nervous than any accusation would have. By evening, she sent one last message, saying she wanted to explain before the family heard it wrong, as if there was a cleaner version somewhere. I placed her texts into the folder with the photo, the receipts, and Grant's lie, then closed the laptop before my hands could start shaking. Suzanne Ellis called the next morning, and her voice told me she was not calling about Grant's work trip. She did not ask whether I had seen Brooke's photo, or whether I knew about the babies. Instead, she asked, low and careful, "Did Brooke tell Grant anything about them yet?" I sat still, because a mother shocked by an affair would ask why. But Suzanne was asking what else had been hidden. We met at a diner off Burnside, where coffee arrived fast and nobody bothered two women sitting too long without eating. Suzanne kept both hands around her mug, though the coffee had gone cold, and her thumb rubbed the handle until the skin turned red. I waited, because people fill silence when the truth is heavier than their courage. Finally, she looked down and said, "I opened a letter I should never have opened. It had come during the worst year of our fertility treatments, addressed to Grant, but mixed into the mail Suzanne collected for us. She thought it was an insurance notice, and by the time she realized it was medical, she had already read enough to know it was not about me. The results pointed to a serious male factor issue, something Grant was supposed to discuss with the clinic and with his wife. Suzanne folded her napkin into a hard little square and admitted, "I told myself I was protecting him, but I was protecting the son I wanted to keep." I thought of every appointment where I had apologized to Grant afterward, every ride home where I stared out the window and blamed my body. Suzanne said the paper was still in a small safe at her house, inside the original envelope, with a note she had written because guilt made details feel slippery. I did not forgive her in that diner, and she did not ask me to, which was the only reason I kept listening. I only told her to give the envelope to Aaron, because if the truth had survived that long in a drawer, it was going to enter my divorce the right way. I was not at Suzanne's house when Grant brought Brooke and the twins there, but later Suzanne gave me the details in the careful way people use when one extra word might make them fall apart. Grant arrived carrying one diaper bag, moving through his mother's entryway with the easy confidence of a man who believed the hard part was behind him. Brooke came in after him with one baby carrier in each hand, pale from exhaustion but lifted by something close to relief. Suzanne told me Brooke looked nervous, but not ashamed, as if she thought being tired and holding newborns would make everyone gentler with what she had done. Grant set the bag near the couch and reached for one of the babies before his mother even sat down. He held that child the way men hold proof, close enough for everyone to see, and told Suzanne, "You're finally a grandmother." Brooke looked down when he said it, but Suzanne saw the small smile pass across her mouth before she could hide it. That smile was what made Suzanne understand Brooke had not come to confess anything, only to be accepted into a story she believed had won. Suzanne looked at the babies, then at Grant, and the color left her face so fast Brooke noticed before he did. She gripped the back of a chair, not dramatically, just hard enough that her knuckles showed white. Then she looked straight at Brooke and whispered, "She didn't tell you?" Grant froze with one hand still under the baby's head. and Brooke's face changed in a way Suzanne said she would never forget. Because it was not guilt anymore. It was fear of a different truth. When Grant demanded what she meant, Suzanne walked to the small safe in the study and came back with the envelope she had hidden for years. She placed it on the coffee table, opened it herself, and laid the medical report where Grant could not mistake his own name. He read fast at first, then slower, his mouth tightening as the words stopped being medical language and became his life. Brooke finally asked, "If that's true, what does it mean for them?" And Suzanne said Grant did not answer, because the room had already done it for him. Grant came to my house that night with the envelope folded in one hand and a look on his face I had never seen in 8 years of marriage. He started before I had even stepped back from the door, saying, "I didn't know. Lydia, I swear I didn't know about the report." I let him inside because the conversation was going to happen whether I wanted it or not. And I wanted it in my living room, where I could end it. He sat on the edge of the couch like a man waiting for a sentence. Not forgiveness. He told me Suzanne had hidden the report, that if his mother had been honest years ago, none of this would have happened this way. His voice kept breaking around the word mother, as if her mistake could carry the whole weight of what he had done. I listened until he ran out of breath, then looked at the paper in his hand and said, "Your mother hid a medical result. Grant." But she did not book those hotel rooms. She did not text Brooke from Salem. She did not put that hoodie on you in the hospital photo. And she did not make me apologize for a body you never bothered to defend. He flinched when I said Brooke's name, but not enough to stop reaching for a door that was already closed. He said he needed time, that there should be a pause until the paternity test made things clearer, because everything had changed in one night. I told him the divorce was not waiting on whether those babies were his, because our marriage had ended before his mother opened the safe. The report explained one layer of pain, but it did not erase the years he chose another woman while letting me carry the shame at home. By the time he admitted his company had asked about the Salem trips, his voice had gone smaller. The dealer had seen mileage logs, customer notes, and expenses that no longer matched the work story he had given them. Brooke had already shut down her social media after family friends recognized the photo and a few customers asked her employer for someone else. I watched Grant fold the envelope again and understood that he had come hoping for shelter. But all he found was the truth, standing exactly where his wife used to be. Mediation happened in a conference room that looked too ordinary for the amount of life being taken apart inside it. Aaron sat beside me with the folder, clean and thin, because he had removed everything that sounded like rage and kept only what could stand on paper. Grant came in with his attorney, quieter than I had ever seen him, and he did not look at me until Aaron placed the receipts between us. No one said affair like it was a headline, because the dates, hotel charges, mileage logs, and Salem texts already knew what they were there to prove. Aaron kept his voice even as he explained that Oregon was not going to punish Grant for breaking my heart. What mattered in that room was the joint money used for hotel stays, the personal charges buried under work stories, and the expenses that Grant had let our marriage cover while he built another life beside it. Grant signed the reimbursement agreement without arguing much, not because he had become noble, but because every objection led back to a receipt with his name near Brooke's address. I asked for what was fair, and nothing more, because I wanted out cleaner than he had lived. By then, consequences had already started moving without needing me to push them. Grant's dealership had taken him off the school accounts after the mileage logs and customer notes stopped matching the Salem trips he had reported. Brooke's employer had quietly reassigned her clients after 2 family customers asked not to work with her, polite enough to avoid scandal and direct enough to make the message clear. Suzanne had told both sides of the family that the medical envelope had been real, that she had hidden it, and that Lydia had not imagined a single piece of what followed. When the papers were ready, Grant finally looked at me and said he was sorry in a voice that no longer expected the word to fix anything. I nodded once, because I believed he was sorry. just not in time to become someone I could stay married to. The pen felt heavy for 1 second before I signed, then lighter than anything I had carried in years. Months after the divorce, I still had the photo Brooke sent by mistake. Saved in the folder, Aaron returned to me after everything was final. I did not open it to punish myself, and I did not keep it because I missed the life that came before it. I kept it because every claim file I had ever worked taught me that the first wrong detail matters. In my own life, that photo was the point where the story stopped being something I felt and became something I could finally prove. Grant moved out of the apartment he had taken near Brooke and accepted a smaller sales role at another branch across town. He did not disappear, and he did not lose everything overnight, but he lost the thing he had always depended on most, which was being believed before anyone checked. Brooke raised the twins with limited help from family, no longer able to use them as a reason everyone had to accept how they arrived. Suzanne sent me a card near the end of the year, and inside, she wrote that silence had consequences, even when it came from love. I placed that card in a drawer instead of throwing it away, because healing did not require me to pretend people had done no harm. It only required me to stop carrying the harm for them. I took a new role at the insurance office, reviewing claims with broken timelines and missing pieces. And for once, that skill did not feel like a wall around my heart. It felt like the thing that had brought me back to myself. Some mornings, I still made coffee for one person at the same kitchen table where Brooke's photo had first appeared. The difference was that I no longer waited for Grant to explain why the truth looked wrong. I had lived too long inside other people's omissions, and the quiet in my house no longer sounded empty. It sounded honest. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Sometimes peace begins when you stop asking someone else to confirm what the evidence already showed. Leave a comment with where you are watching from tonight. And subscribe if you want more stories about walking out of pain with your name still intact.